dude, like, just chill. Have a Cosmic Blondie, man. Like, it's not that deep. For the June monthly bake, I'm giving you my Cosmic Blondie recipe, which is probably my friends and family's favorite recipe of mine that I always make for pretty much anything. Like, I've made it for birthday parties, I've made it for Super Bowl parties, I've made it for picnics. It is just such a fantastic catch-all sweet dessert recipe that everyone goes bonkers for. There's just something about a blondie that is very universal, so I'm turning it extraterrestrial by making it cosmic. If you have ever had a cosmic brownie, that is kind of where this name is coming from. But really the only thing that's super signature, I feel like, about a cosmic brownie is the dense texture and the little candies on top. I kind of took the inspiration behind the brownie, the ganache, and the candy on top, and then that's what inspired me for my cosmic blondies. So we're thinking colors, we're thinking rainbows. Pride Month is here. Why not celebrate with some out-of-this-world treats? The first step is to butter your baking pan. This is a 9x13, and I like to just take some softened butter and go into all of the crevices. And then I've got just a regular sheet of parchment here, and I'm going to lay that in. And then I just decided to go back over the parchment with this little bit of residual butter that I have here, just again to give us a bit more insurance. If I'm going to make something where butter is a very prominent flavor, I'm probably going to brown it because it just maximizes its flavor potential. In addition to my medium pot that's kind of getting the butter going right now, I've also got just a couple ice cubes and my vanilla. I like to have these kind of at the ready, even though they're melting just slightly, because once this is done, I'll get it to just the right point, and I don't want it to go past that point. The ice cubes are gonna help me stop the cooking. I'm kind of finicky, and I like to use two things when I'm browning my butter. I like to use a silicone spatula to get along the sides to make sure that I can scrape down any of that butter that might have built up on the sides, because that's also where it can scorch. And then I like to use a wooden spoon to actually go onto the bottom of the pan where, you know, the heat source is, because that's where those milk solids can actually get kind of stuck. And I like to go and scrape those up. You can use really whatever kind of butter you want. I like using something that has a higher milk fat percentage, like an Irish butter, European butter. You know, you maximize your potential for the milk solids to brown. That's what's happening when you're browning butter, is you're basically toasting all of those milk solids that are in there. So you'll see now it's foaming. That's when I like to take the wooden spoon, and I turned it down. I didn't take it off the heat completely, but I like to then go with the wooden spoon and kind of scrape up. If you have one of those wooden spoons that has a flat edge to it, I love those. And now I'm kind of at that point. It started to get foamy on top, and then I saw all those brown milk solids on the bottom form, and I'm gonna add just a couple ice cubes in there. It will splatter, but that's also gonna help us stop the cooking process. And then now I can see even more of that fond where those brown bits kind of are on the bottom. And then while it's still a bit warm, I'm gonna add my vanilla extract in there and just stir it in, because A, it smells amazing, and B, there's just this it's just almost like you're blooming or activating that vanilla. When you're browning butter, you're evaporating off a lot of that liquid. You really want to make sure that you're mitigating that, so that's why you add the ice cubes. In addition to stopping the cooking, you're adding the moisture back in there that you lost. I've made cookies before where I didn't do that, and they just tasted dry. All right, now the hard part's over. So the rest of this comes together super easily. I'm just gonna mix my all-purpose flour with a bit of baking soda and then a good bit of salt. This recipe really does need that kind of salty bite to balance out the rest of the sugar and the chocolate. And then I'm just gonna whisk this together. So now I'm gonna add my dark brown sugar and my granulated sugar to the bowl. And I like dark brown sugar because it has a deeper, more molassesy, kind of richer flavor. And then I'm gonna add my brown butter, and you can see how many milk solids are kind of left in there. So I wanna make sure that I get those out. And I'm just gonna whisk that together. This is gonna look pretty greasy right now, but you definitely wanna make sure that you're whisking pretty thoroughly here for maybe at least a minute. And then once you start adding the eggs, that's when it'll start really smoothing out and coming together and looking less clumpy and less greasy. So add them one at a time, and this is when it starts to look almost like a caramel sauce, basically. Now I'm just gonna add my flour. This is also a little bit of a dance between my whisk and my spatula. I could fold it all in there, but usually I'll start with the whisk and just start to get it going. And then once I see just the bits of flour that clump around the outside or around the rim of the bowl, I'm then gonna go in with my spatula and fold that last little bit of flour in. And if I still see some pockets, that's okay, because that'll get incorporated after I mix in the chocolate chips and my mini M&Ms. Another good thing about Blondies in general, but especially these, is that it doesn't really require a chill. Like, I have actually made Blondie batter and then I've transported it to like a friend's apartment and baked them off there. Like, you can rest this dough, but it's totally not necessary. So you're really just looking for everything to be settled in an even layer. But because this also is like already starting at kind of a melty place, if there are little bits of like peaks and valleys here, they really do settle out once it gets into the oven. This is gonna go into a 350-degree oven for like 22 to 24 minutes, but definitely err on the side of less bake time for these. Ooh, they look so good. The last step before we let them cool completely is to just kind of knocking a little bit of that air out to really help that texture become even gooier when you're eating it. That's gonna cool pretty much in the pan, probably about 45 minutes to an hour, and we're good to go. Now is the point where we're making the white chocolate ganache to go over the top. My Blondies have cooled. This is where it should be very fun, unless you're someone like me who gets very stressed out about things looking right and perfect, but maybe that's not the point. I don't know. Anyway, you should choose colors that are next to or near each other on the color wheel, rather than complementary colors are colors that are actually across from each other. So like blue and orange, right? But blue and orange make brown when they mix together. So you should pick things like red and orange, or yellow and orange, or like yellow and red, in order to actually like make them not look ugly. So anyway, let's do purple and pink. Now we gotta chop our white chocolate. And I would advise you to buy just like a bar of white chocolate and then chop that rather than using like white chocolate chips, because that's not actually white chocolate. For the most part, it is kind of just like a candy morsel. I like using a serrated knife to chop chocolate because serrated edges grip onto the chocolate better than when I'm using like my chef's knife. Rather than slicing through it, it just snaps it. And this actually like grips into the chocolate and then cuts through it. Now I'm going to add my heavy cream into here, and I'm going to just heat it up to the point right before boiling. So I'm working kind of over like a medium-ish heat. That is starting to kind of bubble. Basically, you see that steam that's coming off right there. So when you see the steam and then you see those bubbles start forming kind of around the edges right there, that is the point at which we are good to go. So I'm going to add my white chocolate, make sure that it's all kind of submerged, and then just let it hang out for like 2 minutes. The heat is off, but it's still on the same burner. I am gonna go ahead and just add a good pinch of salt in there. So while I give that another second to melt, the Blondies cool completely in the pan. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually just transfer them to this wire rack, which will be easier and a little bit cleaner for us to decorate. So now I'm gonna whisk my chocolate into the cream. Because this is warm, it's quite spreadable, quite pourable. That's why you want to kind of work fairly quickly with this. Pour a third into each one. So I have, probably should be good. What did I say? Purple and pink, right? This is gel food coloring. I actually like using gel food coloring because you don't have to use nearly as much, but also with gel food colorings, their colors actually intensify over time. Now, it's time to have fun. You're like basically creating little galaxies. And I don't want to use all of it. Then I'm gonna dollop some pink kind of around it. Oh, it's kind of giving Barbie. So really at this point, it's gonna look kind of like a whole lot of nothing until you start to actually swirl the colors together. And that is why I like to save the white for last, because then you can kind of go in and really kind of make it galaxy brain. And then this is where I go in and I make like even more galaxy vibes. While this is still kind of setting, I'm going to use my sprinkles and my other accoutrement. I think at this point, like, if you have the time, you could just let it do its thing at room temperature. It'll start to kind of settle within 10, 15 minutes. This whole thing is Everclear. Honey, it's like a Friday night. Oh my God. In these little bowls, I have this stuff called luster dust. I love luster dust. It's edible glitter, basically. Well, I could just sprinkle the edible glitter all over it like I did with the sanding sugar. I like to actually mix it with a very high proof alcohol. You can paint with it. The alcohol, because it's so high proof, just evaporates. You don't taste it whatsoever. This just lends itself to like a little extra sparkle, you know what I mean? Just little cosmic splatters all over the place. Okay, but I am gonna add a little bit of flaky salt because it is going to look even more like stars in the galaxy, which is fun. Oh, now I want to add more glitter. I don't know. No, I gotta stop. I have to stop. Oh, I could be here all day. I don't know if I've ever been so excited about a finished product here in the studio. You'll see right here that it is still just a pretty thin layer of ganache. Even though white chocolate is very sweet, again, there's not a huge ratio. In every bite, you're not getting a ton of white chocolate. They're perfect. Wow, I love them. They're fantastic with your cosmic ganache on top. Without the cosmic ganache on top, they're great. Make it with buttercream. Just make the blondie base no matter what, because they're so easy and they really are kind of the most crowd-pleasing dessert I can think of. Thank you to everybody who made the May monthly bake, the extra tender chocolate chip scones. It was really fun to just kind of see all your photos, read your stories about how you shared them with moms or maternal figures in your life. That was really sweet and extra tender, honestly, just like the scones. If you want to find this recipe, go over to NYT Cooking. You also could get this recipe for free, if you signed up for my newsletter, Baketime. You get all of the monthly bake recipes for free. Plus, you just get to hang out with me every Saturday morning. I'll see you back here next time for the July monthly bake, which is extra special because my birthday is in July. Go outside, bring these to a picnic. Happy Pride. Thank you for watching. I'll see you back here next time. Yay! You guys come eat, come eat, come eat.